Hey, team players, welcome to ESPN's list as of June 3rd for number 21 through 30. And Bob and I are going through this from a PPR perspective, single quarterback league, knowing that there might be some changes as we come around for August, but the same realm of player rankings is basically going to stay the same. And as I look at this one, I think there is much more talent at the running back room at this 21 to 30 than there was at 11 to 20. And to me, there are the three studs to jump off the paper to me, both in terms of usage, but definitely in terms of production. Stevenson is New England's offense. Mm-hmm. And I treat him in the same mindset as King Henry. Mm-hmm. Like, to me, he's an early second round, maybe late first round if I want to go running back heavy and there's been a run. Mm-hmm. And I can justify that. Aaron Jones is, most people think that Travis Etienne is the Eckler light. Well, the real answer is Aaron Jones. Aaron Jones catches the ball and scores touchdowns way better than Etienne does. And if you want someone that when he's healthy gets the ball nonstop and there's no question because he's an old school coach, that's what Najee Harris is. Najee Harris, when he's healthy, is getting the rock, and that's what's going to happen. And the Steelers have said they're running the ball more this year. That means good things for Najee world. Then I look at the other options on this board. Dalvin Cook feels like he's been in limbo this whole offseason. Like, Minnesota is acting like they don't want him. Yeah, I don't understand it. Dude produces. Breece Hall had would have won Rookie of the Year on offense had he not gotten hurt. And now he's the problem I have with Hall is partially the reason I'm loving Jones more. It's like a balancing act. Mm-hmm. That scale of justice of Aaron Rodgers not handing the ball off on RPOs really hurt Aaron Jones last year. And I can see the exact same thing happen in the Breece Hall because I don't see Aaron Jones or Aaron Rodgers becoming less of a dick. Mm-hmm. So when I add this all up, I am lower on Breece Hall than most people are. And in this wide receiver category, I love me some Amon. I know you love Amon too. Mm-hmm. I'm very down on Andrews, mostly because Odell Beckham, if he's not the most targeted player on the field, that he will implode that locker room. And they drafted a wide receiver in the first round. I think Andrews is the one who loses target share as a result of that. Garrett Wilson sitting there as Aaron Rodgers' probably best friend seems like on paper that should be a no-brainer. I'm very skeptical of the player's talent himself. And then I just said before, I think Waddle's going to have a better year than Tyreek, which justifies him as a top 5 receiver. So I love this group.
When I actually have a love-hate relationship with this group because it's very unclear when depending on how you approach your draft, mm-hmm. depending on how you approach your first and second round, because we're now getting into 21 through 30. Mm-hmm. And this is, if you're in a 10-team league, this is your third round. If you're in a 12-team league, this is approaching your
the turn of the second round.
This is the turn. And so conceivably already, you could have taken 2 wide receivers. You could have also
not a bad running back shot to be drafting for your first running back.
You could have also taken wide receiver, running back. You could have also potentially taken 2 running backs at this point.
And someone is taking Kelsey at this point.
And somebody has taken Kelsey. Now, as I look at this, the player that intrigued, the 2 players that intrigued me the most actually are Breece Hall and Mark Andrews.
Okay.
Mark Andrews is not so many years removed from being the number 1 tight end in PPR.
He's the only one who's not Kelsey for the last 20 years, it feels like.
And Breece Hall is becoming a couple more months removed from the knee surgery that he had. Now, if I am constructing my roster and I see other guys available here, I'm not really thinking about taking Andrews, and I'm not really thinking about taking Breece Hall here. And that's and this is the issue. It's depending on how you constructed your roster. If I went and I took 2 high-quality, top-flight wide receivers here, I can't take a chance on Breece Hall.
Well, I'm just looking at this from overall value. I think Breece Hall is the highest risk, lowest upside of the group.
He's the highest risk, but I disagree that he's the lowest upside. I think that
I don't trust Rodgers giving him the ball.
I
think he's talent-wise on the field, he's got it. I just don't trust Rodgers giving the ball.
But to what your point is, though, is that he's a big risk.
Mm-hmm.
And no matter how you construct your roster, at this point in the third round, this big of a risk is real. I mean, people were taking that on Saquon Barkley last year, but Saquon Barkley is a known commodity.
Yeah.
Breece Hall, pardon me, we had a couple games, and then he went down, and we're not sure exactly if he could keep that up for a full season.
We're not.
So out of this group of people, I am not even considering Breece Hall at this point in time.
Likewise.
I don't think you can. And that's going to go against what a lot of people are saying, is that you need to grab him. I think you don't need to grab him. I think he's a piece that you could trade for from a frustrated owner who is seeing that it's not happening. But I don't think that he's a guy that you want to pick here. Likewise, I don't think Mark Andrews is the guy that you can pick in the third round as well. For the same reason why I'm...
It's too early for tight ends in my world.
I'm a really... Like I said, I really, really like Travis Kelce and his 316 points last year. I really like that Travis Kelce always puts up points. I really like that Mark Andrews puts up points. But the thing is that we are questioning Lamar Jackson playing. And as soon as you question how many games Lamar Jackson can play, then you are questioning what you're going to get out of Mark Andrews. Because Mark Andrews comes purely hand in hand with Lamar Jackson. If you think that Lamar Jackson is going to play a full season, then you will draft Mark Andrews with confidence in the third.
I'm not even sure about that, because even last year he was losing volume to Isaiah Likely, the number 2 tight end. And this is before they added 2 much more talented options on that roster.
I get that. But like I said, I'm not taking him in the third round. Maybe if he's sitting there 4th, maybe if he's sitting there 5th, I'm not even thinking about him in the third round.
Yeah. Here's
the guys that I am thinking about and that I do want on my team in this group. And this is why I say this group is that group that I love-hate, because I have a lot of history with a lot of these players on this roster. Aaron Jones really screwed me over last year. Is he in a better situation without Aaron Rodgers? I think so. I think he's going to get the ball a lot more. If I've drafted 2 wide receivers and Rhamondre Stevenson is already off the board, Aaron Jones is a
dude. If I'm thinking 2 running backs, I would take either one of those.
Yeah, and
I love having 3 running backs when people have none.
Same goes.
It's a great way to play. You have so much power over your league if you have 3 real running backs.
Same goes for Najee. I talked myself into liking Najee last year, and you know the back half of the season, it turned out that he was a better player in the back half of the season. But by that point in time, we were already struggling in a 20-team league. So. Or a 14-team league. So that was not a blessing. So out of all of these players that I do like, that I would consider in the third round, would be Amon-Ra and Jaylen Waddle. Amon-Ra and Jaylen Waddle have target share. They have snap count. They have the love of their quarterback. They have the love of their coach. They have their fan base that is around them. They're going to see the ball. And this is the thing about these 2 players that I'm not even questioning. The biggest question mark about Amon-Ra is he going to be healthy? But if I've constructed my team, I would much rather have Amon-Ra or Jaylen Waddle than any of these other guys on this current
of the receivers, yeah, for sure.
The other 3 guys here that I'd be considering that I like would be Rhamondre, Aaron Jones, and Najee Harris. Aaron Jones and Najee for that bounce back. They're in a better position this year, conceivably. We'll see what happens there. The guy that I'm not even considering, I'm going to let somebody else figure out, and it could come back to bite me in the ass, would be Dalvin Cook. Dalvin Cook is an incredible athlete. Dalvin Cook, when he's on the field, he puts up a boatload of points. But for all intents and purposes, they've already plugged in Alexander Mattison as their number 1 guy.
Yeah.
Now, if Dalvin Cook ends up going to Miami, that's
scary.
That could be really gross, and it could potentially bring down the value of every single Miami player,
because they don't have a real running back.
And it would bring down the value of every single player in the wide receiver room, because Dalvin Cook, and even Dalvin Cook himself, because it would then balance that roster out a little bit more. And I don't really want to touch him, and that will bite me in the butt. I know that for a matter of a fact. It's
possible. It depends. It all depends upon where Cook ends up, right? Because does he get cut? Because I look at Cook very similar to the conversation we had in the last episode about trading Adams, Because with Hopkins out there, do I want to trade something rather than when I can just not have to spend a draft pick? Well, the comp that Cook's dealing with is Kareem Hunt that's out there. Because the two of them are very similar. Obviously, Hunt's a more watered-down version. But if I want a guy who can be dual-thready, I do believe you're going to get more value overall out of Cook, just like you get more value out of Adams over Hopkins. But there's not a whole lot of teams right now saying, I want another running back.
Well, there's a guy.
That's just the thing.
There's a guy not even in this range here that I would want more than a couple of these other guys on this list. Like,
which one is it?
I'll tell you that.
I think we got the same guy. But might be playing on one of these other rosters we're talking about right now.
But TJ Hawkinson, to me, is you shouldn't even be considering TJ Hawkinson.
I don't think so either.
I don't think at this point in time you're even considering Mark Andrews at this point in time. In your third round, you're still building the core of your team, and that core of your team is still wide receivers and running backs. And the only player you take otherwise would be Travis Kelce. And if you're really spicy, you're taking Allen or Mahomes. But you're not that spicy.
No, that's third round steward for a quarterback.
That's what I'm saying. You're not that spicy. You're not going to do it.
Yeah.
And and like I said, there's nothing inherently wrong with these players being in this third round. But there's a lot when I'm looking at my third round guy. I conceivably got a really stud person in the first round.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I took a chance on someone that I liked in the second round over another guy of equal talent level. But this third round here, what your production that you're getting, you're still getting people that produce. You just have to hit the right one to balance out your team here. I think a guy like Rhamondre Stevenson provides you with the opportunity to do that. However, we don't really know what's going to happen with Mac Jones. We don't know what's going to happen.
I know what's going to happen with Mac Jones. He's going to hand the ball off because he sucks.
Out of all of these players here, it seems like your safest one is going to be Amon-Ra. And that's scary when an injury-prone wide receiver could potentially be the safest one out of this group.
See, I disagree with that. I think Stevenson is by far and away the safest one. I know they're handing the ball off in New England. They want to win games low scoring, and they want to keep their defense off the field. They're playing in a division that is all about putting up the points, and the only way they can win is not trying to have their offense have to put up as many points. New England knows they can't win a shootout against any of the teams in their division. So they have to run the ball and they have to control the clock. That's Stevenson territory, and that's why I believe he's the safest. And to a lesser degree, that's how Pittsburgh's attacking it. Mm-hmm. And I love how healthy Najee turned out to the end of the year. But you also can go to the other side and say, let's pick one of the running backs from a team that does want to score 1 million points and is in a division where they have to. And that's the Aaron Jones argument. I think Green Bay's put up a lot more points than people think. I don't think we're going to see a giant step back in terms of points on the board that the Packers put up with Rodgers than with Love. And mostly because they're going to have to because their defense is overrated. And that's my take on this. Mm-hmm. But to do an overall point to the tight end conversation in general, my entire belief with the position is unless you're taking Kelce, there is no distinguishable value in terms of the roulette of who will come up as the number 2 and the number 3 between the number 15th tight end and the number 3. So therefore, I know I can get value. So like you can say, you know what, I want to roll for the dice. Give me the by far best receiver on the Jets, and let's see if Aaron Rodgers makes him put up crazy abs. I understand that gamble in the third round. I understand the when Amon is on gamble.
Right.
And I also understand I want to own 3 amazing running backs so I have no fear for the entire season. Because you can win a lot of games whenever you're going up against people who are doing dual running backs. Mm-hmm. And the 3 of them on this list of Stevenson, Jones, and Najee, they're the guy.
So this is the one thing that everybody has to think about with Najee Harris, and it's been the Steelers' problem for the last 2 seasons is scoring points.
Oh, their red zone offense sucks.
They can't get into the red zone. They can't score when they get to the red zone. And if you look,
one of the worst red zone offenses in the league.
If you look at where you would rank, so Najee was the 14th best running back last year at 223 PPR points. If you add in 7 touchdowns, like how many touchdowns did he have last year?
I didn't have many.
Felt like 3.
He didn't score a touchdown in the month of September.
Let me look this up
because I remember this whole big thing. When's Najee going to score?
Before we say anything incorrect here, so he had 7 touchdowns last year.
And 14 is not out of the realm for him. It's a brand new offensive line on the left side.
If they get into the red zone, you could see another 4 touchdowns coming his way if they get into the red zone more.
That 28 points is big.
You can see him jumping up there, and you know, now you're not considering draft him in the 1st and 2nd round as a 3rd round running back.
I love it.
This is a lovable place for him. So I mean, if we go through and we rank these guys in terms of, you know, who we like the best out of this grouping here, Amon-Ra is at the top of my board right here. There is little not to love about Amon-Ra and the Detroit Lions at this point in time in the offseason. I think the second guy on my list here is Najee Harris for the same reasons that I just said, where, you know, you're getting a player that, for all intents and purposes, could put up another 200 yards to match his total from the previous year. And another 3 to 4 touchdowns is not out of the question if Kenny Pickett is the dude. And so we, you know, people in Steelers Nation hope he is. And so I think that if we get that out of him, Najee could get another 4 touchdowns and he could be, you know, winning you leagues.
Oh, yeah.
The next guy on my list is Rhamondre Stevenson for the same reason that you stated. I mean, his snap count share is going to go up. It was already high last year.
Yeah, they got rid of Harris.
They want to run the ball. They want
to
keep other teams off the field. The one problem that I have with Stevenson is the same problem that I have with Najee Harris is the unpredictability in the touchdown department.
Yeah.
And out of a 3rd round guy, you're not really hoping for touchdowns. 7 is kind of the high point of guys that you might draft in this round. But I think when you look at this grouping and you say, well, who has the most chance to score touchdowns in this grouping? Rhamondre Stevenson, Najee Harris. Like, I mean, these are all guys that 7, 8 touchdowns for any guy on this list seems to be where it's at. And you're looking at the yards and the receptions at this
from point. The running backs. Yeah.
The next guy and the next guy on this list is Aaron Jones.
See, if Aaron Jones only gets 7 touchdowns, that would be a disappointment to me. I see him as an easy double-digit guy.
Would be. Aaron Jones, I gotta like Aaron Jones just for the same reasons that we've been talking about when we were talking about Green Bay. Is Love is going to rely on the running game, and I think that the Packers would be smart to rely on the running game because they have 2 incredibly talented running backs on their roster to do that. I'm not taking him, but by all means, he's very valuable in that respect. So Amon-Ra, Najee, Rhamondre, Aaron Jones, and then I've got to put Dalvin Cook in there. I mean, Dalvin Cook would be 2nd round to me if his situation were clear.
Yeah.
Dalvin Cook might even be a 1st round running back if the situation were clear in a 12-team league. I would consider taking Dalvin Cook at the turn if I knew what team he was going to play for. If I knew.
So say Dalvin Cook is traded to Arizona. He'd be clearly the number 1 there in Arizona.
And he would put up a bunch of points.
Okay.
I mean, if he went anywhere really, it would. I just think he's getting a bad rep at this point on June 3rd. From the June 3rd rankings here, that, you know, Dalvin Cook should be much higher in my book. But even in my rankings of this grouping, I can't put him higher than Amon-Ra or higher than Najee because his situation is not a good situation to be in.
In Minnesota, yeah.
Then I've got Jaylen Waddle. Jaylen Waddle, again, would be neck and neck with me with Amon-Ra if those running backs weren't there. And I think you could, if you felt like it, you could interchange Jaylen Waddle and Amon-Ra. I think they're probably going to go back to back in most leagues. I think you're going to see one going at, like, say, 26 and the other one going at 27, 26, 28. I honestly think that Amon-Ra and Jaylen Waddle are probably going to bump into the second round for a lot of people.
Waddle was totally justifiable as a second round pick.
Just, especially in 12-team leagues, I think it's going to happen. Those players are going to get taken on the turn, and if you're in the middle of the round, you're probably not going to get a chance at them. Garrett Wilson, by default, for me, would be the next person on this list. But again, if the Jets are going to be successful, Garrett Wilson is going to be a part of that. But we know that Aaron Rodgers has to develop a rapport with the wide receivers. He already went out there and said, I want Allen Lazard there. Already went out there and said, I want Hardman there. Maybe he didn't outwardly say he wanted Hardman there. But Garrett Wilson is going to have to prove himself to Aaron Rodgers, and Aaron Rodgers will put you in the doghouse. And if you're in Aaron Rodgers' doghouse, you're not seeing the ball.
Might as well retire.
So all intents and purposes say that Garrett Wilson is going to have a great season, but we know too much about Aaron Rodgers to say that that's going to be a factor or not. And then by default, not even in my list, but has to be in the rankings here, would be Andrews and then Hawkinson, because I'm not touching a tight end in the third round, no matter who's on the board. Unless Travis Kelce falls to the third round, I'm not touching a tight end.
That's different. I completely agree with that. And for my rankings, it is Stevenson first, Najee second, Jones third. And the order for them in that order is the quality of the backup behind them. Dylan might end up putting up more value than any of the other backups in the entire NFL. So that's why I would have Jones third on this list. I have Waddle fourth. As I said, I think he's going to have a better year than Tyreek Hill. I see him having a potential top 5 season, even with the Tua struggling behind center. Ahmad's injury risk is something I do take seriously. The fact that those guys got Gibbs, I don't think that they want to play as many shootouts as they did. I just don't think they're going to have a choice, because I don't think that defense is any good. So I like having Ahmad on my team. It's never a bad time to have Ahmad St. Brown on your team.
And to the point of Amon-Ra here, as we look at him, Gibbs is going to be a nice player for them. But Amon-Ra is, when the Lions are successful, the ball has gone through him. Mm-hmm. When the Lions are putting up points, the ball goes through him. If you look at what his targets were, he had one game that was under 8 targets. And that was when he had 1 target and got hurt. Mm. So he has the highest targets of any player.
He's very consistent
on this list. And so, Garrett Wilson had a high target share as well, but that was with multiple quarterbacks. Yeah. And you can't really predict.
Well, it does show that you get open. I mean, there's something to that.
Right. But to that point, when I look back at our rankings and I say, like, can these guys jump up? I think that it's a very high possibility that a lot of people like Rhamondre Stevenson over Nick Chubb, and you could see Rhamondre Stevenson going in the second round. Mm-hmm. Same with Dalvin Cook, same with Najee Harris. Mm-hmm. I think that there's a good case to be made that instead of Travis Etienne or
I'd rather have Stevenson, Jones, and Harris over Etienne. I mean, that's not even debatable for me. And then, so I was at St. Brown. The remainders on the list after that would be the wild card that is Wilson. For everything you said about Aaron Rodgers, I don't ever want to live in his head. I don't think I want a Jet because I don't want to deal with Aaron Rodgers. And that I get them discounting a ton of points because of that. I played that game and have been screwed by it, and I don't want to do it again. And then after Wilson, then for me is Dalvin Cook, because I'm really hoping he ends up. So imagine him in Miami. Quite frankly, the exception would be if Dalvin Cook's a Jet. I would take Dalvin Cook there. And the reason for that is Breece Hall is on my undraftable list because I don't think he's going to be healthy ever. It normally takes you 18 months to recover from the injury he did, and he's going to try to do it in 9. That never works out. I don't want to touch anything with Breece Hall in a year-to-year league. Maybe in a dynasty you could talk me into it, but at this point, I don't want to touch him. I've seen too many running backs not return from knee injuries, and he's in I'll let someone else take the risk. It ain't going to be me. So by default, Breece Hall is last. I disagree with you about the rankings of Andrew and Hawkinson. I take the Hawk ahead of Andrews for all the reasons I said about the target share going down in Baltimore. But at the end of the day, you're right. Neither one of these two belong in the 30 or higher club. Not at all. So, guys, come join us in our best ball leagues. Click us in the comments to do it. And if you haven't already, click subscribe. We love talking more fantasy with you. And that's what we're doing from now until August.